Another night, another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. Another night, another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. In the night, in my dreams, I'm in love with you. How you talk to me like the first. I feel joy, I feel pain, I feel the same. When the night is gone, I'll be alone.
DJ Sequence.
In the night, in my dreams, I'm in love with you. 'Cause you talk to me like the first two. I feel joy, I feel pain, 'cause it's still the same. When the night is gone, I'll be alone. Another night, another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. Another night, another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. In the night, in my dreams, I'm in love with you. 'Cause you talk to me like the first. I feel joy, I feel pain, 'cause it's still the same. When the night is gone, I'll be alone.
Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's everybody doing? We are live, we are alive, and it is Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Whoa, how's the hearing? It's gone, brother, it's gone. That was in for one whole day. Big mistake, big mistake. You try and do something nice to show your daughter that it's not painful, and fuck me. Yeah. I looked like a lesbian with it in. It was hilarious. You know, I'm late 30s. It just does not. Yeah, not ideal. Anyway, personal jollies aside, how's everyone doing? Let's open the stream shouting out to Breakout Prop for sponsoring the stream. My partners, if you've tried out Breakout, then let me know. Any feedback is welcome. If not, feel free to try it out with the link breakoutprop.com, obviously, and use the discount code in the bottom left as well for discount. Duh. Market depressing? This is a trader's market, man. It's a trader's market. That's why I like Breakout Prop, stuff like that. Trade with someone else's capital. Job done. But yeah, it's a trader's market. I mean, all I'm doing is longing Altcoin, which at the moment is depressing. But this morning, literally I woke up, I was like, I think it's going to be a shit day because I was going out and doing Christmas shopping. And then saw this, literally this massive fucking sell-off get eaten up, and went, alright, well I'll fucking long some in here somewhere then, and just bought the shit out of that. And I actually closed up here somewhere, about 12.48, I closed in this, somewhere around there. But yeah, it was like an 18% rotation. It was mental. Mental. And that's like all I've been doing this week, fucking long in Altcoin. Shout out to Altcoin, yeah, big shout out to Altcoin. Let's just catch up with the chat really quickly. Don't want to spot uni position? No, mate, I'm not. It's Gonzo. We can cover uni later. Let's go. Hi, Dave. I don't mind being called Dave, to be honest. All my WoW characters are called Dave. It's not a bad name. If I could re-pick my real name, it would be Dave. Yeah, I like the stream. Yeah, I appreciate you liking it, guys. My throat is going to periodically go through the stream. I'm just going to warn you. And I'm not going to do a 2-hour stream like last week, right? There's no way. No way. But yeah, earring, yep, done that. Market depressing. I think market depressing is fair if you're not flicking between coins quite quickly and trying to work out what's next on a rotation. And that's really the thing that I think sets me apart from most other traders, is that, you know, I'm always trying to work out like what's next, right? I will come on to what I think is next and why in a minute, and how I catch them, how I preempt them, and then how I join them. Yeah. So 2.5-hour stream, probably not. You'll try breakout prop. If you're going to try breakout prop, use the code in the bottom left. Thank you very much. Much love. Happy Christmas. Breakout props look amazing. A few improvements to the UI, like setting partials. Some minor stuff, but really great. Yeah, fair. Am I classical retail? Both, but I mostly play retail, and it's not much at the moment. Like, I barely play any games anymore. Trading Bitcoin short overnight, fed off after closing. I fucked off after closing. Okay. Please, let's go straight to the next Altcoin position. So I don't know what the next Altcoin rotation is, but I'm actually looking at the weakest performer at the minute for a rotation, and that sounds really dumb, but I always preach the same thing, which is I'm usually interested in the two kind of categories of what's in extreme beta this way and what's in extreme beta this way. Now, we've had the Altcoin rotation. That was really good. We caught most of it today. I literally phone traded it. It was, you know, like an 18%. I think I caught 14% of it or something, which is pretty good. I think actually, because I closed the latter bit lower, it's probably about 12, but whatever, 12% in a day, I'll fucking take it. Do you know what I mean? In conditions like this. But it's Zach. And the reason I think it's Zach is if I look at this, and yeah, I bull posted the highs. Whoops. Sounds about that. You know, I think I posted up here, like, why isn't it going to go to why would you sell at 700? When you can sell at 1,000, and actually that parabola looked really fucking good up here. And then as soon as it started selling off and breaking that parabola, it was like, well, that's me done. But I had lots of nice trades on Zach from down here to here to here, so I cannot complain. Very, very strong asset. But if you look at this and you go, okay, well, you know, what have we actually done? We've basically established a high time frame range, and you know, this resistance up here, very, very clean. There is a huge seller in the 700 region, or huge sellers, whatever, but it, you know, consistently wicks into that 700 region and rejects. Yeah. Similarly, we're getting lots of wicks down here in terms of price being bought up. Now, I'm not saying just blindly ape in here, right? I never do that. Anyone who's following my stream will know that I don't buy lows typically, although I did today on Altcoin. What I tend to do is buy the start of fresh rotations, but the fact that, you know, all this selling is kind of being absorbed, even though we've got relatively low volume down here, and there's not really a breakdown yet, suggests that buyers might step in and we might get a decent rotation out of it, because sellers have been in control for a while. The beta is really weak, and what tends to happen is the worst beta flips and becomes the strongest in a rotation. So, you know, it's high on my radar. My kind of execution criteria are literally either a big sell-off and a reclaim, so you're looking at like low time frames like this. So, you know, we know that contextually this is around a high time frame pivot, yeah? So we don't necessarily need to keep all this on. So we're just going to treat this as a low time frame entry. We're going to treat this as literally a strong downtrend. Now, you know, you could say, well, Charlie, why don't you just short this and do something like this? And previously, I probably would have done, but my win rate with shorts has been pretty bad lately. I've not had a particularly great, a great win rate with shorts, like doing this, essentially like inverse breakouts, right? Which, if this was bullish, and if this was the price action, i.e. it was going up and to the right, and we saw, you know, rejection, and we saw this kind of consistent high lows heading into a potential breakout, you know, you'd think, well, why wouldn't I long that? That's a really nice breakout, especially as we are breaking down on relative weakness. But I've just not had much luck with shorts. The only shorts I have luck with are when they look like that. You know, we talked about the silver short, which would have been actually fucking epic. We've talked about various other shorts over the course of time, but yeah. So for me, it comes back to where do I want to long these assets, because I do think strength will come back, and it is literally something like this. Now, I'm not going to get it perfect because obviously price action will happen however it happens, but you get a strong sell-off, we take these lows, we start running it back, and we, importantly, get some relative fucking strength back. And as soon as we start seeing that relative strength, that should give us the confidence and confluence to enter a position. And then the price action should give us the invalidation for that rotation. And you know, I want to see this at least tag like up here. So our trade would typically look something like this, right? Depending on where we get our entry. But we're targeting like these local highs. We should be at least getting like 10% out of it. So you're looking at like a 4-hour trade, right? That's how I think of it. Now, obviously a lot needs to happen. This might come to nothing. This might just be a dream in Charlie's head that never manifests. But that's kind of how I find and look for the next rotations, yeah? And it was similar on Altcoin. So you're like, oh, well, Charlie, that's great. But, you know, this is planning forward. Yeah, but we talked about Altcoin in the group after it sold off massively because it was such a... let's go back to it. It was such a difference compared to the rest of the market, right? And it's an outlier. And when things move as outliers, it's reasonable to kind of assume that they're going to do it... stun you. That they're going to do it in the exact opposite way. And you don't have to know that they're going to do it in the exact opposite way, right? You can just assume it. Like, this sold off massively compared to the rest of the market. Again, same premise of ZEC, sold off massively, will likely reverse at some point, and that reversal will be much stronger than what the rest of the market is offering. Okay? Does that make sense to everyone? Is that useful? You enjoying that kind of content? Will you put that kind of thought process into your trading plans? What's the vibe? Couldn't be more clear with Zach. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's kind of it. You know, that's my like big like shitty rotation. And that's not because I've got a position on Zach. Got absolutely nothing. Completely flat right now actually. I've sold my Altcoin position. I'm not in any major positions at the minute. I've still got spot Bitcoin as I always have. I've just got some like spot bags like BERT and stuff like that. But yeah, I've not got like huge like positions in. I'm not like, right, I've just spent $1 million buying Avicii or something, which I probably should have done when it was 50 cents and I was looking at it. But okay, so we've all got those. Like a rubber band being stretched to the downside and snapping back up. Exactly that. Exactly that. That's a really good analogy. And I think that's the thing, is that I'm just looking at what is moving differently to the rest of the market and what's an outlier. Because I want to trade outliers. Outliers tend to move the most, yeah? Clear and smart. Amazing. Thanks, Free Below. Are you able to analyze Tau? Yeah, sure. How do you know when a rotation begins? Are you just watching price action constantly? That's a really good question. And yeah, we'll come on to Tau and stuff, but someone asked me to start with that, so we will. How do you know when a rotation starts? Are you just watching price action? So you kind of don't know to some extent. So this morning when I was watching this, I didn't really know, a rotation had started. I thought, that's pretty fucking mental, like how much it had sold off by, yeah? For the volume that was done. And it was just coincidence that I kind of thought, well, okay, Bitcoin seems to be slowing down in terms of its sell-off. We'll take this low as kind of the invalidation. We didn't actually take this low here, but fine. We'll take it as a rotation. And we'll take it as a rotation because the day before we played it up here. And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember where I sold it, but I'm pretty sure I banged like one of the tops. And then longed it again, and then played it here again. Like literally, it's been a joy trading Altcoin. By the way, you're down like 7% from the highs. You've got a real nice diagonal confluence with this. Again, similar. All right, that was it. I said there's a compound trade here, like there, and that's where I did my. That's where I had my dinner, actually. So I missed that. I was logging it in here. But yeah, like here, I didn't know a rotation had started. I just thought, do you know what? It's slowing down from a momentum perspective to the downside. And actually, when you start getting that slowdown of momentum, and you start seeing that actually there is a bid in the book somewhere, it's probably worth a little punt, and we'll see what happens. I didn't really know a rotation had started, and to be honest, I was doing the school drop-off and stuff, so I didn't really have a clue during this. But you know, I think, when you've got a rotation, because you see it creating, you know, higher lows in terms of market structure. You see it starting to move up, and if you've got some EMAs on your chart, I've actually been using, what have I been using? I've been using some EMAs. Oh no, I've been using MA9. Yeah, MA9, just simple moving average, and yeah, on my actual Bybit chart, just so that when price starts moving, I've got some EMAs just to kind of line up with my thought process. Because if you look at this, like, basically any moving average that you stick on this is going to make it quite difficult to exit. So if you said, all right, Charlie, I'm going to hold this until we lose these moving averages, you don't actually sell it until here. So really, it's a couple of things. One, when you get a rotation and everything in spaghetti starts moving up and to the right, that's really when you know you're in a rotation, right? So you can you can join that rotation. Let's just get rid of this replay tool. So as everything starts moving, you know that you're in a rotation. When it ends is when you start losing trends, either structurally, so in terms of higher lows and higher highs. When you start seeing momentum diverge, so you start seeing price create higher highs, but momentum create higher lows, or sorry, lower lows, lower highs. What the fuck am I on about? So you start seeing this, right? And as soon as you start seeing those things, or you start losing EMAs like these, then that's how you know that that rotation is over. Now, the other thing that's really important for me is relative strength. So if you're long Altcoin, right, like we were this morning, now I wasn't watching this, so it's really difficult for me to like hindsight comment, but you know, you can see that it's got massive relative strength here, and that's a large part of our trade thesis. And then I'm willing to bet that, you know, here it basically lost it, because you've got things like useless going up, you've got various other things going up, and here that would give me the kind of, okay, well, I should probably start selling here. And that was 1300, which was here. So you can see that it loses relative strength as it starts losing that momentum to the upside, right? And there's a really shitty janky div over here, but as soon as it loses relative strength in those sell-offs, that's how you know that that particular rotation is kind of over. And since it lost its relative strength, which is here, all we've had is a series of lower highs, right? Had a little bit of a battle there in terms of dramas, but yeah, that does that make sense? So you're looking at a combination of market structure, you're looking at level reclaims, which was here. So as soon as we broke up and reclaimed, that was like a kind of good signal that you've broken out of this consolidation and that you're starting a rotation. And then as soon as relative strength died here, that was when really you should have exited, but I exited in here. So I was a bit early, but I was in a coffee shop selling on my phone. So yeah. I know it's a really long answer to a very simple question, but I think it's worth that level of description. So yeah, let's jump into Bitcoin. What do we all think is going to happen to Bitcoin then? What's the group feeling? Don't be shy. There's no right or wrong. If we could get every move right, we'd all be trillionaires. Well, actually, we wouldn't, because we'd all be trading against each other. Outer Trex, you missed the opportunity to say it's over touch grass. And just copy what's in front of you. Do we really believe it's over? Tag 90k and then down? We've almost tagged 90k anyway. Long-term range between tariff lows and 100k for a few months at least. Temporary relief bounce, then one more like that. I like that we've got quite a mixed view, but the general message is move up and then down. So whether we come to 90k, 100k, whatever it might be. So, you know, do something like this, do something like this. But either way, most people are kind of convinced that the downside isn't done, right? Is that fair to say? Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, I think that whatever camp you subscribe to, right? Whether you think we're going to end the year like up here or down here, yeah? I think it's really tough to argue that we're just going to be reversed from this. I don't see any major catalyst for us to do so. I don't see any, you know, major narrative that's going to make it just rocket up. There do seem to be more headwinds than tailwinds, i.e. pressure pushing it down, and then if like that start coming under pressure and they have to unwind and blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not qualified to talk on that, so I'm not going to, but I'm just saying that from the way I see it, I don't see there being a major catalyst for running up. You know, when we were back here, you know, it was like the election was the major catalyst, obviously, and as soon as that happened and we got crypto bullish president, etc., you know, that was quite an easy kind of risk on environment and a risk on trade. Here, I don't really see what's going to trigger us into that, right? But equally, I think a lot of people are too bearish. I think a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to 60k, we're going to 50k, and all this kind of stuff. And I actually think that, you know, those same people up here were saying we're going to 160, 200k. You know, I was pretty bullish up here as we were maintaining structure, as we were doing all this. I flipped my bias when we sort of failed at 126k, and I became really cautious, particularly heading into the 10th. You know, I went full cash on the 8th, which was nice, lucky for me, and all that wonderful stuff. You should see some of the messages I sent XO, but yeah, we'll leave Drunk Charlie out of this. And yeah, I think people are getting like super bearish at these lows, like super bearish. I just don't think that, you know, would I short this? Like, no, absolutely not. Do I want to long this? No. Well, what do I want to long? What do I want to get involved with? Well, to me, it's just, where's the range? Where's the value area? Where do we think we're going to start actually forming a nice little range? Yeah, and I do think it's here. I do think we kind of range around here for a little while. I think anything between 80 and 90k is a decent range. You know, it's not necessarily 100% lined up with these previous areas, right? Which you would argue is probably here and here, and up here and up here. I would say that, you know, this is 1 and this is 2, but yeah, realistically, I think a lot of the downside is probably done in terms of like accelerated and exaggerated move. That, or we just get like a really slow and painful like move down. Do you know what I mean? Like nothing like major, nothing like this, unless something like happens to MSTR or something, right? And it could do. I'm not smart enough to understand all the interconnections of all those DATs and everything like that. But from a technical perspective, like, this was the kind of pinnacle of the sell pressure. We've since, you know, reclaimed a normal kind of RSI. We're hovering between pretty reasonable levels from prior price action. Yeah, we've started that ascent. Whether we do something like this and just chop people around for much longer than they can handle or expect. Yeah, I think that's my bias. So Rainman XPTs, or Rainman XT says chop probably. Pumps 93k back to 50k. Maybe. What's good, Charlie? Marusha Monster here. Hello, sir. Where's the regulars? There's quite a few. Nelly, where you at? I haven't seen Nelly actually today. Do you know Elliott Waves? I do, but I don't use them. SPX69 is not looking that bad. Yeah, there's probably loads of alts that are not looking particularly bad, and it is one of the much stronger coins today. If you know Elliott Wave, you can understand quickly. We've just ended a 3 down and currently in a corrective 4 up. Then we should have another 5 and one more 4-5. Nah, I no idea what you're talking about, mate. Sorry, brother. I'm not an Elliott Waver. Be a good bounce around now. But what target Bitcoin must hold to give a pathway to all-time high? I mean, I don't see why, if it holds this range, like between 81 and 86 that I've doodled, then, you know, I don't see why we couldn't break out of that range to the upside and carry on. But, you know, it's pretty difficult to defend something that looks like this when we've had, you know, it doesn't matter like how you draw your meme lines, it doesn't matter what EMAs you stick on it. You know, this is a strong reversal, and if you start looking at like the weekly, this is the first time the weekly's gone bearish for nearly 3 years. So we've had a 3-year bull market, and this is the first time that this signal is printed, right? You know, and that doesn't mean that we won't just do this and have a nice little right hand, little, you know, push to 100k or whatever. But it's pretty bleak in terms of signals. Do I use order flow? No, I don't. No, EXO, well, Magus uses order flow, so does Doc. I don't. I have spent enough time looking at the 1 minute chart, to be blunt, that I can see absorption. I can see, like, I mean, you look at this, you look at Altcoin earlier, right? And that example that we talked about. Like, where is it? Like, I don't need order flow juju to tell me that that's fucked. That in that candle something got pretty bigly absorbed. Right, look at that candle and look at that. Pretty mental. Well, I don't need order flow to tell me that. So yeah, I know there's a lot more nuance to order flow than that, and I know there's a lot more that could be done. I suppose the way that order flow sort of fit in with my trading style is it can be really, really good to see what's happening with BTC. And the way I tried to fit it in was, if Bitcoin looks like it's going to sell off, then I should get out my alts. If Bitcoin looks really strong, then I should plow into alts. But what you end up doing is, if I can just trade Bitcoin, why wouldn't I just trade Bitcoin and trade that well? Instead of going, well, I'll trade Bitcoin to then trade alts, which makes it like this 3-dimensional trade, and it just becomes too complex. You know, there's too many triggers, or lack of triggers, because you're waiting for the spot absorption, or, you know, you don't want to long in a perp-led rally or some shit like that. Whereas, you know, my system now is, oh, I see Altcoin printed in decent market structure on relative strength, fucking long it, bosh, done. And I mean, the last few weeks, since I've come back from holiday, you know, not to big myself up, but I've done pretty fucking well. You know, I'm at basically like 200% gains in like a month in a down-only market. So yeah. Yeah, let's have a look at some other stuff. You know, I'm not willing to bet directionally on Bitcoin at this point. So it's a bit pointless talking about it in terms of like, where do I think it's heading next? I mean, this looks like it's just fucking rolling over and dying, yeah? It looks like shit. Like, let's be honest. Even if you're just looking like meme channels, the fact that it's selling off like this is pretty shocking. You know, just consistent lower highs, strong sell-off, meh, pretty bleak. But I'm not going to short it here. Too late. So like, if we look at ETH, similar process, right? Here, one of the best longs on ETH, you've got a strong downtrend. You've then got a consolidation at the bottom of that downtrend, broken with huge relative strength, yeah? Why would I piss around long an ETH in this? If it goes down and then it consolidates, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to long a fucking breakout. Bosh, and we go again. Same for like Solana. You know, a lot of people are rushing into positions on stuff that I just think is far too early. Still cooked, still in a big downtrend. You know, I'm not trying to swing any of this. just weak sauce. And if this means that we get something like this and nobody likes Solana anymore and we come down to like $60 and then we're consolidating for a few months and then we start running it up and I'm long here and stop under there, absolutely fine. I'd much rather do that. Let's have a look at some other stuff. Because, you know, I think most like layer ones are pretty cooked. Like, stuff like Pengu, I mean, absolutely fucked. Look at it. Anyone who's tweeting about that is paid 100%. What else we going? Useless is one that I like because it's actually had like a decent reaction. And if we look at this, bosh. Like, it's had a strong bounce. It's just a liquid as shit on the perps. It's really fucking bad. But like, as one of my friends put the other day, like some of these alts can like 5x off the lows and it'll still be the shittiest little pump you've ever seen in your life compared to the rest of the chart, yeah? Like, that's a, 200% gain. And it's not even anywhere close to all-time highs. Now, I don't think it's going to go to all-time highs, right? I think these are all rotational trades only. I think they're dead cat bounces. I think anyone saying there's going to be a massive fucking alt season is just trying to rope you in. I don't think there's going to be a massive alt season. I do think that there's going to be outperformers consistently. And I think I'm going to catch most of them. Like I did with Zach. Like I'm doing with Altcoin. It's not hard to spot the relative strength. And there's usually something running in the world of crypto. So I think people can either cry about it or make the most of decent rotations. Yeah. Let's have a look. I'm killing the roaches, mate. But yeah, I mean, Bert's one of those coins. Like, I've still got a fuck ton of Bert, right? But it's really not had the best time. But structurally, I mean, it looks better than useless, right? It looks better than useless because it's actually holding this level. It's actually managing to hold a level. Instead of breaking out and doing something useful, it's still holding it. I mean, probably because SE is just buying the fuck out of it. But either way, it's holding up. It's a better looking chart than a lot of meme coins. But yeah. What time frames am I using Spaghetti on? Typically the 1 to 5 second, mate. Monad USDT.B. Yeah, this is another one, right? Really, really good. So a lot of people are like, well, basically everyone who fucking wanted to sell has just consistently sold it, right? And shorted the shit out of it. And you've had months to short the shit out of this if you thought that this was some like bullshit VC pump scam, whatever, yeah? And the fact that like ICO price, I think ICO price is 0.03, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think that's your kind of line in the sand. And I think the fact that everyone had literally months or weeks and weeks and weeks to short it means that they did. And then as soon as you get that unlock, well, really, anyone who sold or wanted to sell has had that opportunity. They're probably hedged. So now you've actually just got a company with a massive treasury, presumably, and the firepower to start ripping some shorters assholes, and people who don't really want to sell. So yeah, it was a really nice rotation if anyone that played it. I know a couple of people that did actually, but I didn't play it myself. But I was very conscious of it. If we're looking at it now, it's quite difficult in terms of like, it's just basically like down only price action. There's no real range, and obviously the price action before is essentially just people hedging, and I haven't really played the pre-listing into listing and then pump or dump, right? I mean, the other one that we have was XPL, and we know how that went. So basically, it did nothing into when it went live. It then went live. It did this. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, Plasma, future of finance." And then since then, it's been like it is made out of fucking piss because nobody wants to touch it. So if we go over to the XPL chart, wherever that is, it is just like the heaviest object in the known universe. You know, that was the initial run. It died. Tried to long it again down here for that rotation, I think it was, and then it just died again. Absolute piss, you know. 99% down from the highs, I imagine. Right down to here. 89% fine. And you know, even in these rotations down here, there's been like literally nothing. So I mean, I do think it's kind of similar for Monad, but obviously the structure going into it, very different. When it launched, there was actually some risk with like Asta and things like that. So new launches had a bit of risk appetite because we were, you know, still hovering around the highs of like 120 something K on BTC. And then obviously everything happened, and then October the 10th and so on and so forth. But you know, we didn't get much of a sustained pump. So I do think it's probably going to be the same for Monad. You know, we kind of died off, we've pumped, and then it's probably just going to be a bit meh. But I could be wrong, and the way that you address this is, you know, you go, all right, I'm bullish Monad for whatever reason, or I want to trade it on rotations. You chuck it on here. Monad USDT. Why do I keep on going? I'm obviously retarded. But yeah, wherever the hell it is. So we'll just chuck a price line on it. We'll make it a bit bigger. So yeah, okay. So I had a nice rotation on it. You know, really strong. But right now, this rotation, death. So yeah, stick on here, see what happens. Yeah, we chatted about Monad. No, that was it, mate. That's Monad. I could take a look at Asta, yeah. We saw a bit of Asta relative strength yesterday, actually. And this was a student pointing it out in the Paragon, and this had a nice little, excuse me, a nice little rotation up here, actually. That was on relative strength there. And I was kind of like, well, if you want to play this, this is what it would look like to me, because you don't want it coming back in this consolidation. Now, obviously, it got cucked. You would have probably seen that on relative strength. You probably could have avoided some of this loss. And then it did rip. So it was just kind of early to the rotation. And Asta's quite a pain in the ass to trade, to be honest, on a low time frame, because usually it's quite a, how do I put it? It just does stuff like this, yeah? It kind of comes out of nowhere, the strength. But yeah, let's have a peep at Asta. I've round tripped quite a bit on Asta, to be honest. It's not been my favorite coin to trade. So if I look at like all these little meme levels, I quite like diagonals as well, because I like trying to find when a rotation starts. I mean, you're basically sat in like an hourly range. And again, this is good in terms of we've broken this downtrending structure. This is our first move up. This is our first higher low. You know, all I'd be looking for here is playing the breakout of this range if we got any relative strength, but the market looks weak as piss at the minute. So, and you know, though I think the whole DEX narrative is a bit starved and a bit done, yeah, I think so. So if we look at stuff like hype, yeah, I'd love to buy a big spot bag of hype. I'd love to, you know, down here somewhere. Oh, sorry, just a couple of sneezes. You know, I'd love to buy some for another rotation, and you know, if this is the end of this cycle, you know, I think that we kind of come down and we eventually, you know, have some consolidation around like 15 to 10 or something like that, maybe a capitulation into 10 and then run it back. Yeah, I think it'll be a good token to own. But you know, here I just can't be particularly like super bullish on the whole DEX meta. And you know, we're at a really difficult point where we are downtrending, and I just don't really want to jump into a downtrending price action. Pain in the ass. That's a fucking banger. Long Altcoin again, 0.25. So I don't really have any specific plans to like long Altcoin again at any blind levels. And this is something that I've been talking about in the group, is that, you know, a lot of people be like, okay, so Charlie, why did you put your TP here? It's like, I'm not putting it here for any particular reason. Like, this is what I think, where I think it will go to. So I'm just trying to think of one that I did. Let's have a peep. We'll go. I didn't even give a take profit on my first one. What was it? Let's have a look. Here we go. Okay, so this is like so here we go. So this was the play out of it. But let's go there. So why did I choose this? Well, typically because it does kind of 10-12% rotations. This wasn't too far off that. You know, it looked nice in terms of RR tool, 7R, lovely. Realistically though, you know, I closed a lot of it up here because it was starting to wean off on relative strength and not being able to push on RSI. So we had that strength kind of starting to pull back, and actually, yeah, it was just, you know, kind of your R on these trades evolves. You know, you're now in a position where, let's try and get the time right. So we're 24th and 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Okay. So, you know, you're up here somewhere, and start new. Sorry, the whole thing's a bit yeah, we're just replicating, kind of go through stuff. You know, I had it up here or whatever. I was like, do you know what? That's kind of enough. We've got this. We're not going anywhere. You know, volume's kind of peaking off a bit. It's probably going to pull back, and it did, yeah. And it was, you know, a good time to sell. Now, you know, the real sort of question to me is like, do you want a round trip when you're up here, when you're so close? I actually sold that. I actually sold into that candle. When you're like 1% away from an arbitrary target. An arbitrary target was kind of looking at this form of consolidation, to be fair, so it wasn't like completely arbitrary, but it was not exactly scientific, and all I'm using levels for is where I expect a reaction to be, and if I see that reaction, I can take some sort of action, yeah? So when we start talking about like, are you going to bid 0.25 area, like, ask yourself this. If it comes into 0.25, right? So this is the top at 0.25. If it comes into 0.25 like this, is that different to it coming into 0.25 like this? Or is it coming into 0.25 like this? You know, because I think all three of those are very different scenarios. You know, this would be fucking scary. Would I bid that? Probably not. Actually, this right here, right now, is what I'd probably bid. So we've got a range reclaim. Let's see if we've actually got some relative strength. Yep, we've got some relative strength. Right. So, you know, here we've got relative strength on this rotation. Yeah? Do we know that this is the start of a rotation? No, we've got no idea. But if we, sorry, this is kind of turning into a bit of a live example. If we look at like the notion of this, this looks like a low. Yeah, ignoring like monad, which is obviously just choppy as fuck. And if you look at this rotation, Altcoin is definitely one of the better ones of this rotation. So we're a bit late to it. But this, in terms of putting in putting in consistent lows, bosh, 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 being one of the best trending assets. It's a bit of a shit entry here, to be fair. But this is what... Oh, steady on. If I was being a bit more observant, you know, this is what I like. This kind of price action where we take some lows, we reclaim on relative strength. We've got a series of lower highs to kind of smash through, but the market might be pretty weak. So again, like, let's say we mark this level out. Not interested in the fact that it just blindly gets to this level. Not interested in the fact that it hits 0.2955 or 0.2942. Don't care. Don't care at all. I'm just trying to structure a trade around a low time frame rotation. Yeah? And my trade now is we've taken these lows. We've bounced on relative strength, so Altcoin's kind of back on the menu, boys. You know, go Lord of the Rings meets back on the menu and all that kind of stuff. I don't like it because it's a little bit late. Right? This entry is not great. But if you were looking at this actively, like low time frame, you've got quite a bit of confidence there that candle, I bet, was relatively strong. And your real entry should have been something like this. Yeah? And then as soon as you started bouncing, as soon as you started this uptrend and this uptrending channel, that tells you that that was an initiation candle to a rotation and that you've caught the start of a rotation. Now, if this prints a lower high and you round trip it, tough shit. You caught a weak rotation, oh well, on to the next one. Hopefully you can get out for your fees. If you caught a good rotation, then we should look at least taking some of these highs out. And generally, where I think that these stall is up here, right? So the former highs, because you've got to think most people are going to be looking to take profit here around local highs. And as soon as you stall there and start falling back in, that's where the rotational element of this trade is kind of done. Yeah? Sorry, that was all very rushed because it kind of just happened. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for on low time frame. So if you are talking to me about 0.25, you know, I'm not really interested in just blindly longing that level. I'd need to see something like this, or something like we saw this morning, or a breakout like here on relative strength, or a breakout like here on relative strength, right? So, you know, happy to long this, happy to long this, happy to long this. Yeah, hopefully this turns into a pretty decent rotation. Anyway, sorry, that was very fast and a bit rushed. Let me catch up. Love to see a playbook example of you going through spaghetti something and it leading to a long thesis. Okay. It's kind of what we just did, but yeah. I got loads of examples of those in the group. ETH BTC holding well? Let's have a look. I mean, ETH BTC's kind of just sat in this boring range, and it's in a higher time frame in like this downtrending channel, which has been in for a while. If it breaks out and we start getting some great movement, great. I'll change my risk off approach to risk on. Yeah, it's really not that complicated, but I don't want to preempt it. I don't want to be like, right, well, this is the bottom, guys. I'm not one of those fucking dickheads that goes, the bottom is in, right? Buy everything now. I'll quite happily tell you to join what I think are trend reversals. Or breakouts, which leads to positive price action. But I'm not going to try and be the dickhead who preempts this. Right, guys, yeah, we're going to break out of this. It's going to be fucking alt season, like, blow me. You know, it's alt season, it's alt season, it's alt season, it's alt season. Nah, that ain't it, fam. That ain't it. Well, that ain't me, dog. What else we got? Trying to incorporate spaghetti, but every time I see something outperforming, it's had a huge candle and don't have the confidence to jump in right then. Do you wait for retest or do you just smash in? So it really depends on, like, if you're using it as the I'm going to long this because it's breaking out. you're going to have a bad time. We know Altcoin is really strong. We talked about it at the start of the stream. We talked about it in the group. We talked about it as part of my Outlook. I've talked about it on Twitter for the last couple of days. It should be front of mind. As soon as we start seeing it from a rotational perspective, we should be thinking, how can I get long this coin? All right, that's it. How can I get long? Where's a good entry? Where's a good rotation? Like, what looks good? Like, this is literally baby pips PA, right? And yeah, like, obviously we call it like up here somewhere, like 0.29 or some shit. It's not exactly the best entry, yeah? But it's something, yeah? But yeah, that's kind of it. Like, if you're just sat here waiting for pure spaghetti to give you a trading signal, you're gonna struggle. I think you need to have a thesis. I think you need to think about what you think is going to be strong, put it on your radar, put some setups in, and use it as confluence rather than the pure trigger itself. And I do take trades off spaghetti, right? I will take trades purely off the back of spaghetti, but they are far fewer. So like Monad right now might be a rotation, like if I was just trading off a spaghetti trade, but I don't know how liquid it is. I know Altcoin's pretty illiquid. It's not the best, but you can plop a couple 100k in it without, you know, it being too bad, he says. So yeah. There's no Paragon gone really in my educational application phase. Yeah, that's fair. Finish CXO's mentorship. CXO? Oh, what XO? You mean? Applying what I learned from Dante XO and you guys in Paragon. Well, yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot from XO, I'm not going to lie. Me and him, he's one of the guys who just inspires me to be better. You know, he is done very well for himself. He's very humble about it, and he always tries to be better. And like, one of the things that I need to work on is my drawdown, because, you know, I can lose a few trades in a row, and I can... It's fine because I tend to play, you know, quite high R trades. So looking at stuff like this, right, you know, 16R, obviously it's probably not going to play out like that, and my realistic target is actually whenever this move stops. So, you know, if I look at this right now, I'm literally looking at it as like a diagonal. As soon as this starts getting tested, or my entry gets tested, which is like 0.299 or something, you know, it's GG for me. So it's not, you know, I'm not hugely confident on this, and I haven't got massive size either, so I can't flex too much. But yeah, XO's a legend. He puts a lot of time into his process, a lot of time. Love the gang, spot swings and hot wings. Yeah, vibes with an immaculate lately. Let's fucking go. Cheers, brother. Does Ron seem too oversold? Let's have a look. I'm assuming it's a Binance coin. As in Ronin? I mean, yeah, look, a lot of these coins look like dog shit. Like, they're just literally like the last desperate. You see this candle and it looks amazing. And then it's like, oh. Looking forward to jump on hype of consolidation down. Yeah, I think it's a good spot bag to own for the next bull run. Would you suggest a beginner trader to keep working on their full-time job to raise capital and trade in the remaining time? And yeah, 100%. You need at least like 2 years runway, at least, outside of your trading capital, I think. But it's equally, you know, that's not financial advice, stream for educational purposes only, obviously. It's really up to you, your risk appetite, your place in life. You know, I don't know if you've got a family, if you've got kids to feed, if you've got, you know, a wife, if you've got, you know, an elderly mother that you support and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know if you've got a great skill that you can just, you know, jump back into a job, like you're a lawyer or you're an accountant or something like that, and you can just, you know, find work tomorrow should you need to. It's really difficult to like give that advice to people. Like me personally, and my own risk appetite is, full-time job's great. Like, just don't do it until you are comfortable that you can do it repeatedly, you can consistently make profits, you don't need the stress, you know, because when you're trading for a living, the stress of, oh, I went to work today and I lost a car. Brilliant. Or, oh, I went to work today and I'm poorer than when I started. What a great investment of 18 hours. And then you go, well, I'll just trade it back. And now you've lost 3 days' work. Welcome to the game. And so on and so forth. So, you know, having those income streams separate takes huge mental pressure off you. If you know that you're essentially, you know, trading or gambling with, you know, your pocket money, then yeah, and you're building a process up and you can scale from $100 to $1,000 to $10,000 or whatever. It gets trickier as it goes up, and just in terms of like liquidity being available, particularly for some of the stuff that I do like on alts. But yeah, that would be my personal thoughts process on it. It's probably the best way of putting it. Does that make sense? I can't ever give like a this is the route to make it as a trader. You know, one of the guys I know in like 2017, he quit his job, went full-time deving for a company for 6 months, got paid a fuck ton of equity and retired. You know, worked out well for him. Do I still think that same opportunity exists right at this moment in time? Probably not. But he took a risk. He took a risk that I would never take in my life. And it paid off. So, yeah. I'll kind of give you the two sides of the story. Check ARK. Late to the short, but yeah. I did see ARK earlier, actually. I'm not going to lie. But I didn't take a position. I'm not very good at trading these kind of utter, like, nonsense scam pumps. And the thing is, like, yeah, late to the short and stuff, but, like, would you really want to short this? Like, to me, the trade on this is to the long side, like almost always. And I'll give you an example that the reason that I don't like shorting shit like this is the fact that they can just pump it instantly. And I say they, like the evil market makers or whatever. But if you look at stuff like this, like MYX, which to me is, you know, I think you can go last stream and have a look at all the places I tried to long it and all the longs I did pull off, and all the shorts that would have got absolutely fucked. I didn't short it at all, by the way, but I did long the top. So, and that's what we were talking about last time, is that I longed like here, I longed here, I longed here somewhere, I think, maybe in like this consolidation here. I longed up here, and I obviously took the L on whatever long it was here, or it was here, I can't remember, but it was, you know, I lost 1%, and then it went down like 90%. So, I also made about 40% on all of these trades, but anyway. Yeah, like the RR of trying to short something like this, yeah, it's fucking great. Yeah, if you catch this. And there was a bit of me that was tempted when I kept failing too long it up here, because that usually signals weakness. But why would I try and short this when actually the upside potential, if you catch one of these scam pumps, you know, can just literally print your portfolio in a week. Like, it's absolutely nuts. And, you know, it's not just once that that's happened. It's literally, you know, that's a reasonable setup. Consolidation, breakout, huge relative strength move, Bosh. Again, huge relative strength move on a range breakout. Like, why would I not just be assuming that they're going to crime it up again? And that's why I preferred longs, even in this environment, right? Even after the 10th of October when everything's died. Even after that. And we were talking about MYX last stream, weren't we? Because I remember it last Tuesday, because I remember waking up. Maybe it was Monday on my Outlook that I did it. But I remember seeing it the next day being up. And I was like, wow. I maybe should have put that a little bit more front of mind. Just in terms of, like, you know, that's a 45% rotation. Absolutely mental. Let's go. Hello, Crypto AM17, my brother. How are you? So, yeah, back on ARK. Back to your point. I do apologise. I'd much more rather play long rotations on those. Hopefully that makes sense as to why. I'm not shorting much at the minute. But, I mean, it was a pretty clear setup in terms of major sweep of liquidity at the highs. that then failed, and then we fail into the lows, and it just dies. You know, after literally stairway up, this is probably going to be elevator down, isn't it? And if you want to fade these, you know, by all means do it. Use my ref link, or you know, use Breakout or something. But yeah, they can reverse very quickly. So as long as you're managing your risk, is kind of the only thing that I would point out. Can I look at ARB? Yeah, I mean, it's probably a big bag of dicks. Yeah, big bag of dicks. Like, I don't want to like, I'm not gonna short anything down here, but I'm equally like, why am I long in this? Like, we've just taken a long on Altcoin, right? With pretty clear logic, you know, pretty decent rotation. Yeah, pretty good. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's the best trade. I'm certainly not retiring off this trade, but you know, it's nice to Avicii. I can't look at that chart, mate. I can't look at Avicii. Sorry, Avicii is doing this, and then it's gonna go like that. Fuck you, Charlie holds none. No, it's probably gonna go like this because Charlie holds none. I'm joking. It's genuinely a really good project. I'm pretty gutted I didn't actually take my dick out of my hand and ape some, even if it was just a small amount, just to feel something. But yeah, you talked about MYX on stream. Oh, did I? Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, here you go, Karmagid. Yeah, trainee accountant. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, as long as you're not putting like your entire career in jeopardy, and you're putting all your eggs in one basket in terms of trading, and if you are disciplined, you know, and you've got like years runway. So I'm gonna have to have a throat sweep because my throat's absolutely killing me. Then you know, you've got to take your own risk in life, and I think the important thing is to look back and not regret whatever you've done. So you know, I could have been a professional gamer. I chose a combination of my parents, and other people chose that, you know, that wasn't the path that I would go down. Probably regret that ever so slightly, even though obviously I've ended up in a really amazing position. I wouldn't change anything about my personal life, obviously, but in terms of like the world we find ourselves in terms of, you know, you can be a streamer, a computer game streamer. I look at all the CS players now and I think I was dicking those about 20 years ago. But yeah, you know, go for it if you can accept the risk. Thank you for Breakout Code, Charlie. Finally got funded. Smaller account size. We're going to try and build towards bigger. Super hyped. Amazing. That is so cool. Well done, man. That's just genuinely really, really good. Now, I fucked my Breakout account a little bit because I left the short open on Altcoin and I shorted it down to the lows, right? I shorted it at, where did I short it? I shorted it up here. I shorted it at 29 cents. So as we break down from this, so I've shorted it there. I closed it down here. I think it was this bounce actually. I closed it there, right? And then I re-shorted it. I think it was here. And then maybe it wasn't there. Maybe it was here or something. And then as it broke out on here, I longed it massively on my actual real account. Completely fucking forgot about my Breakout account. Logged into it and went, ooh. Oh well, I'll fucking leave that then. That's not the best. But yeah, I'm still underwater on that short. But I was like, I printed a fuck ton off long in this, you know. I think I just want it to be able to copy my actual trades, just fucking one for one my Bybit account. You know, I'd have passed that trial weeks ago if it had ZEC on it, which I've asked them to do, but we'll see. So yeah, look, we've got a, you know, pretty decent live rotation, yeah. It's only a few percent, don't get me wrong. I'm not like claiming that I'm the fucking best trader ever to breathe, but you know, I did smash. I wasn't actually that much, wasn't even 100k in it. So yeah, you know, I've made a couple of grand on stream, so it's alright, isn't it? If I sell it now, obviously, dump on everyone. I don't like trading with fucking massive size on stream, because last time I did that, I had a fucking 16 grand loss while I was streaming. I thought I sold and I was like, and then I opened it up and I was like, oh, I didn't actually click market sell. Brilliant. Well, yeah, it cost me like 16 grand to stream 1 week, which was less than ideal, but we'll see. And now you're all extra and dumping on me. Do you save us and send it higher? I wish. I didn't mention some giveaways. I didn't do the giveaway, did I? Fuck. Good, yeah, good catch. You've got to catch old Boomer Charlie out. Oh my god, I didn't do it. I knew there was something I had to do. Bollocks, I am so sorry. Right, I will dig the form out from last week and I will get my ass on it. My sincere apologies. That is bad. Hey guys, I'm doing a giveaway. Lamau, JK. But yeah, I'll show you what, like, we've got this, yeah? I'll show you what I've been using on Bybit. I just want a fucking simple moving average, man. What's all this bullshit? What's all this bullshit? Sorry, I'm just crunching my throat sweet like an absolute old man munching his Werther's original. What else to take that? Take the brush marks away and stuff. Just because it. Right, there you go. So we're looking at like a simple moving average, yeah? Now, when we're playing these rotations, we're looking at this, and like I've been using this on Bybit, like I said, and it's been quite good, just in terms of like if this starts curbing off, if we start really, you know, we've got a nice little move here, you know, we're pretty strong. We're long the strongest asset, so this is kind of like no reason to sell yet, yeah? This is a good rotation that we call live on stream. We're trying to play this out, and we're trying to hold it for as long as we can, yeah? Equally, we don't want to give everything back, so there's this constant like juxtaposition of, well, I want to hold it forever, but equally, I don't want to just go like this and take a fucking loss, yeah? And the market can do this if it wants. Some news headline hits, some whale wakes up and sells $1 billion of Altcoin. Fuck knows, right? It can happen. So like, what do we do? How do we keep ourselves in the position? Well, we've got this simple moving average, which again, I've stuck on my Bybit chart. And really, I'm just now looking for if we lose that, or if we lose momentum, or if we lose relative strength. And until that happens, I've got no real reason to close this trade, right? Yeah, I'll post spaghetti on here. But equally, like, we're looking at this, yeah, and we're starting to see like when we start getting that mix of you know, some absorption and stuff, I start getting a little bit like edgy and starting to think, well, I'm probably gonna have to start paying attention soon, because if we start losing this in terms of the MA, then, you know, this is where I need to start paying attention, yeah. And if it means that we've only clapped out a couple of percent, that's absolutely fine. We can always take half off, yeah? So we lock something in. We can always stick this up here so we don't ever take a loss, or take profit, you know, here or something, so we've at least covered our fees. But this is where we start kind of shifting things around, particularly as we're running into all the former highs now, yeah? So we're running into former highs, and I always think like former highs tend to act as like local areas of resistance, yeah? And we talked about it up here. Like, hopefully it accelerates. There's no real reason to close it yet. We haven't lost the MA. We're still pumping on relative strength, but yeah, if things change, then you jump out of it. And you want to put yourself in a position where you can't really lose when you've actually caught a decent rotation. Yeah. So there's always a balance of giving too much back. So if you put your stop up here, for example, you go, well, what if it comes back and does this and then it runs? You go, well, I think that's fair. You know, we got stopped out, tough shit. At least we banked some profit. You know, do we really think that it's gonna like hold above here? Probably. You know, if it does dip back into here, in terms of like this previous consolidation, that is probably that rotation over, so it's fair enough. So it kind of makes sense to have your hard stop there, and just bank some profits. You can go to bed with this, you know, running. Again, arbitrary target. You can always put a trailing stop on it, so on and so forth. But yeah, there is a live example, ladies and gentlemen, of a Altcoin rotation. So yes, does that all make sense? Are we all Gucci? I am very aware that I'm like flexing a 3% move on people, but woo! Sorry, 3.5% move. Fucking hell! Woo! There you go. You were being a trader. You can pay for it now, can you? Look at that. Whoosh. Oh, can please analyze Tau? Of course. I don't know why everyone's so bullish on Tau. I think there's deals to be had, but Charlie is not in said deals. Yeah, I mean, had a nice rotation. We talked about this before in terms of, how do I put it? Like, let's get rid of this. The only level that we really care about at this point in time is this down here and or this here. So like this is a pretty clear high time frame pivot. This is a really nice structure, to be fair. These highs here, again, I love this as a breakout setup actually. That is really, really clean. The fact that we are getting some momentum on it here as well. Yeah, this is quite nice for a potential like breakout and run setup. So, you know, something like this, essentially, that's your, again, arbitrary target. Like, let's zoom out and let's start thinking about what highs do we think it could reasonably smash. It doesn't seem particularly unreasonable to target like these highs. So yeah, you know, we have a strong downtrend. We've stopped down here. We've created a divergence. We've changed market structure. We're tapping on this resistance for the third time, really. If we move it down a little bit and tag that one, yeah, it doesn't seem unreasonable. Yeah, it looks really nice. Yeah, it might be a little bit early, but yeah. We're gonna bosh another one live on stream. Beautiful trade still. Oh, thanks, man. It's almost like I've done this for 7 years. Yeah. It's quite tough to explain my trading style to some people, to be honest. So I am really grateful that you guys are all here and listening and hopefully trying to put some of the stuff that I preach about into practice. Because it's not the most easy of combinations, right? It's not like I'm saying, if this EMA is bigger than this EMA, then long, aim for this gap. More, trade from here to here. It actually requires a little bit of thought, my system, which for a lot of people is asking too much. So you guys are obviously smart. Hence why you're here. Hoping to help pay for my Paragon joining fee? Yeah. Well, I hope this plays out for you, brother. Hope you get something like this. How do you time the reversal of something that is selling off extra hard? I don't think you do. So I don't think you necessarily, like, let's say something, have you got an example? Like, I'm trying to think of something that is like, all right, let's say, it's not really extra hard, is it? Like, trying to find something that is like, let's just find something that's fucking down only today. DMTR. Ugh. That's a liquid dog shit, but yeah. Saros. Those guys fucking offered me like an OTC on it up here somewhere, and I told them to shove it up their ass. Unreal piece of bundled shit. That's what this is. Yeah, how do you time the reversal of it? You just don't. Like, actually, Zek's probably the best example I can give you, which we talked about at the start of the stream. So, like, it has been a brutal sell-off on Zek, yeah? Brutal sell-off. And we know we've got a high time frame pivot across here. We know that on a low time frame basis, price has been trending down. I'm not going to buy into this. I'm not just going to fucking buy it here, yeah? There's just no point. Why would I go here? Why would I fire off into something that looks like it just wants to keel over and die? Yeah? If other buyers are stepping in and they're pushing up price and they can convince me that this downtrend is broken by a show of strength up here, you know, I put that there for like the memes. So you either get the range reclaim, which can be like trigger 1. So let's just do this like from fresh. You get the range reclaim here. From a low time frame perspective, this is exactly the same as what we just did with Altcoin, yeah? Exactly the same. So we've got this. We've got this lovely downtrend. If we can reclaim this on relative strength, we've got kind of two triggers. One is reclaim, one is break of diagonal. If we can see it on our relative strength chart, ooh, look. Ooh, look. We're starting to weaken on Altcoin, but we'll come back to that. This is where we start getting like, okay, well, I can fire off a clip in here, and I can put my invalidation under the initiation candle. I can fire a clip or two off in here as we break the diagonal downtrend, assuming we've got some relative strength. And, you know, I can start targeting whatever highs I kind of want to for a rotation in the same way that we did for Altcoin. So the answer to your question is, I don't try and catch the falling knife. I wait for the falling knife to start being picked up by other people. And then we go for it. Yeah? And like, this is quite nice, yeah? So we're starting to see that move. Let's see if we've actually got some Zek relative. Oh, look, we've actually got some Zek relative strength. So, yeah, we started off the stream by saying that this is where I'd be looking for a bit of relief. And Zek's here. So we know that actually in this run so far, it's not had much. And then now it's just starting. So, like, we could back-to-back this trade with the Altcoin trade if we really wanted to, and go with it. I'm probably not going to do that, just because I can't be asked to live trade two things, but that's the exact thought process that I go through. I'm an EM addict gap fills guy. Yeah, fair play, mate. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, I am not mocking anyone's trading style, just to be clear. There's a guy chatting about Elliott waves earlier. Go for it. I don't care what people use. You know, it's great. Follow your system. Practice what you preach. Use it and use it well. The worst thing that people do is, you know, people asking me about order flow. Like, order flow's great. I see Magas and Dot kill it. They get some killer entries. They get some killer reasons to exit trades as well. And I'm like, damn, you know, maybe I should be using this, you know. And every time I think that, I go, Charlie, nope, stop. Like, there's no point. There's 0 point. I've got a really good system that works, yeah, and that works for me, and that I understand, and that I've read now for, you know, weeks, months, years, and I've improved it. I've tweaked. I can, you know, feel the feedback of the market. You know, feel being the operative word. You know, I kind of know when things are going to go wrong before they go wrong. You know, it's intuition, it's experience. I don't know what it is, but stick to one thing. Get good at it. Good at it. If it's EMAs, you're an EMA trader. Great, go for it. You know, if you've got a good screening system and you're playing EMAs in a, you know, highly trending asset class like crypto, you'll probably do very fucking well. You know, crypto moves in massive trends, and if you've got a decent scanning system, then, you know, and you're picking up EMAs, you know, you're picking up breakouts of like these massive ranges, and you're capturing some of these like 50, 60, 70% moves of like breakouts. The EMAs keep you in for a long time, and you're swinging on the 4 hour or whatever. You're going to outperform 90% of CT. Like, absolute no doubt. Absolute no doubt. Sorry, I've kind of lost the Zek thought process. So the thing that you want to see as it starts breaking out is a little bit of relative strength at least. And, you know, we are getting that. You know, it is. You know, you've got this here, this Altcoin drop off. It's actually updating. You know, you've got this Altcoin drop off and Zek. Doesn't look like it's updating, does it? Hello? Is my stream actually working? What a piece of shit. I'm assuming it's my internet rather than anything else. But yeah, okay, you've got Altcoin selling off, which is Barsh. Obviously I can't manage the trade whilst streaming. But yeah, you got Zek popping its head up. So I'm not confident that it's a Zek rotation. No, it's fine. It's not doing shit. But that's the thought process, yeah? You've got Zek showing a bit of low time frame relative strength. Doesn't look like particularly great at the minute. If I was in for a clip here, I'd be waiting. I'd definitely be waiting for, you know, a bit of a push to jump on a little bit more, yeah, and to fire in with a bit more size. And then if we deviate here and we come under, then that's just, I'll just cut it, yeah. Because realistically, when you're looking at this now, you want this to start breaking out of. Sorry, it's so messy, isn't it? Good God. Let's get rid of all this nonsense. Yeah, you essentially want this to be where it holds up, yeah? Because this is your pivot. This is your pivotal flip here, 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 here. Resistance, resistance. These wicks, hopefully, are just lows being bought up. And now we're going. Yeah? But, yeah, there you go. Bit of relative strength. Altcoin not really doing much, so we'll flick back to Altcoin. Yeah, there you go. So, I missed this obviously because I'm streaming for you guys, but this is kind of where we saw that relative strength decline. So that would be our warning sign. We lost our MA up here as we lost relative strength. And to be honest, most of the time that would be me sort of GG out the trade, yeah. But obviously I'm not because I put a stop here and I wasn't really paying attention. There's an hourly AO div forming on Zek as well. Excellent. UNXO were developing a screener. We were, yeah, trying to build a screener. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that I've probably been too focused on trading the last week or two, or few weeks, and it's paid off. You know, I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely been the right choice as opposed to focus on system. But there's always time to focus on systems, right? When there's not many good rotations, or when I'm just getting absolutely obliterated. So yeah. So yeah, maybe we get a Zec rotation. It's definitely worth being on the radar. Put it that way. Yeah, maybe not particularly great, but hopefully the thought process makes sense. Right, I think that's probably it. I'm not sure I've got much left in the locker tonight, and I did go on a little bit longer than I expected. So I'm going to love you all and leave you all. And I'm going to, once again, show Breakout prop. Go gamble with someone else's money. Use the code in the bottom left to get a discount at checkout. I will love you all and leave you all. There was a good explanation of my trading style earlier. I will hopefully timestamp it at some point, and I will do the giveaways, and I will do it now as I down another throat sweet. So with all of that, I'll bid you adieu. I will see you at the same time next week. Thank you for all the love and the comments. Really engaging and thoughtful comments today. As is usual, to be fair, I genuinely feel like I've got a smart follower base. I haven't got a bunch of mouth dribbling, mouth breathing, dribbling monkeys following me that just go, ooh, TP stop loss, etc. Because that's not really, I don't just get a 4-hour chart up, draw 3 lines on it and say long here, stop here, etc. But yeah, I really appreciate all being here, and I'll see you again same time next week. Au revoir.